We finally got our cameras back in the House Ways and Means Committee. Remember, the panel was in executive session deciding on whether or not to vote to publicly release the several years worth of Trump tax returns they have obtained via the IRS. They were in a 3-year-long court battle, and just weeks ago, the Supreme Court gave the okay. Let's go now to the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, the Democrat from Massachusetts, Richard Neal.
Rule 11, without objection, members will have 2 additional days to file with the committee clerk supplemental, dissenting, or minority views. Without objection, the staff is authorized to make technical corrections to the report and to redact sensitive, personal, identifiable information such as Social Security numbers, street addresses, personal identification numbers, and banking information. The purpose of the Ways and Means Committee business having been accomplished, the committee stands...
Mr. Chairman, on that last note, if I may, so 2 questions, parliamentary inquiry. 1, can you explain what this committee did related to the concerns that the private tax returns right now include personal identifiable information that would be troubling and a dangerous precedent? And our concern is that the committee is not voting on the full documents that will be released to the public. We think that's a significant mistake.
I think that we can assure all that every deliberative effort will be made to make sure that in these instances, all of the questions that you raised will be accommodated, as we outlined earlier, and the staff on both sides, I hope, can find an agreement, or the majority staff will prevail. But we did address those issues earlier.
In our strong view, this committee should always be voting and knowing exactly what we are releasing, certainly in text and to the public. In the second point, maybe a more practical one, can you please advise us now on what, now that these documents will be made public, what members of Congress may say when this business meeting concludes?
Well, I would advise that the speech and debate clause be acknowledged. We did participate in an executive session, and I believe that we have been advised, as I have now for years, and those who are watching from the media will reinforce. I want to say this, after a long process, that this was not about being punitive, it was not about being malicious, and there were no leaks from the committee. We adhered carefully to the law, and my advice to all members of the committee is to acknowledge the realities of the speech and debate clause and be very careful about word selection. With that, there being no further business, the committee stands adjourned. Thanks, Kevin. I understand. I know.
Okay, it looks like we lost our audio there in the committee room. We're still working on determining what is going to happen with these tax returns of the former presidents. That is the chairman right there of the House Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal, the Democrat from Massachusetts. Remember, they just came back from executive session. Okay, and we have it. So the House Ways and Means Committee there has voted 24-16 to release the committee's report on Trump's taxes. The report was discussed in closed session and has not yet been released. So remember, Republicans on the committee, vehemently opposed this. They did not want this. They said this is a dangerous precedent. We also have some members of the committee talking about this right now. This is Michigan Democrat Dan Kildee. Let's listen.
That will be filed that addresses the inadequacies of the mandatory audit program.
Did anyone in this meeting on the Republican side express the view of the former president on how he was feeling about the fact that his personal tax information is going to be released now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let them advance their own arguments. I mean, it was clear to us that in order to fully understand the problems in the mandatory program, reading the report, it was important to have the full understanding of the information that is the foundation of the two reports. It's almost impossible to decipher these reports without understanding them in their broader context, and the only way to accomplish that, in our view, was through the release of the information.
Is there any concern that since there's this lag between the report and all the tax returns being made public, is there an opportunity for the president to find some other court to stop this thing, or?
Well, you'd have to find a court above the Supreme Court. I don't think there is one. Right.
So,
were you able to make enough? Did you have enough time to make an assessment with the staff, with the returns? Just it's been less than a month now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the documents, it kind of speaks for itself.
Is there any duty now on what you can say about the documents and the content of them?
The only reason I'm being a little careful is that I want to see the redacted documents before getting too deeply into the detail of it, because it's a decision that is being made right now to execute what we talked about in terms of the redactions.
Did anything surprise you from what you saw?
I would think what people will likely be surprised about is the extent to which the IRS was not conforming to their own rules.
were they not following the presidential audit program?
Not under the audit program, no. I mean, he may have been subject to audit for other purposes.
So the audit program that is described in the IRS manual, you find that they deviated from that a lot?
I think it was inactive.
So they never did a review
Well,
when he came into office that was through that program?
I think maybe for a single tax year. Yeah.
So previous presidents too, maybe?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't have any reason to believe that. Of course, previous presidents, also allowed the scrutiny of public disclosure.
But did he do Pence too? Because Pence is required annually along
No, obviously what we requested didn't include his returns. So.
I know when the chairman first made this request, he called it a matter of oversight and looking into Trump's business dealings. How do you justify, Republicans going to use this saying that this is your 11th hour bid to attack them?
Well, we requested the information in April of 2019, and it's only because of the former president and Republicans who supported him that we weren't able to move more quickly. We just were able to get our hands on these documents, and we don't waste a single day. I don't swear an oath to be a member of Congress until a month before the elections or before the end of the year. We do our job right until the very end, and the only reason this timing is what it is not because of us. We moved in the spring of 2019. In fact, some were critical of Mr. Neal for not moving more quickly. We moved pretty quickly. It was a question of whether or not we could actually get our hands on the information in order to inform the decisions that we make. And, in order for us to determine whether or not there is a need for legislation and what that legislation should look like in terms of requiring the mandatory program to be codified, we needed to see what the experience of the last several years has been and what we've seen.
Okay, so some of the House Democrats on the committee there voicing their reaction to the committee's vote on Trump's tax returns. Here are some House Republicans on the committee. Let's just listen in briefly.
The taxpayers a little bit more. All of it was disregarded. All of it was disregarded. So the American people can once again go to bed tonight knowing that their greatest fear is the IRS, and the IRS will have access to everything and can expose everything about taxpayers if they want from this day on. It's a horrible day for the American taxpayer. The faith, trust, and confidence that the people have to have in this system is shaken to its very roots.
The fact that the Democrats think the IRS needs a lot of work does not require the release of private information. And I think it's wholly unnecessary, and I think it sets a horrible precedent.
I would note, and this is beginning to take some questions here, but I would note Republicans offered an amendment that would refer these documents, investigation of Joint Committee on Taxation, a credible, experienced organization that has conducted similar reviews in the past, such as the Enron investigation, to review fully and with adequate time the IRS presidential mandatory audit process, and to bring back that analysis report to Congress within 90 days. We provide an alternative that focuses on the purported reason for this, releasing these tax returns without creating a new precedent that can jeopardize the privacy of every American. With that, questions?
Yes, sir. Brady, I'm sorry to address this. I guess it's very top of what you said, but what exactly was in the report that they are submitting to the full House? Is it all of Donald Trump's tax returns over the past 6 years, including his business returns? All the documents?
Public as of now? Yes, sir. Yeah. So I'd say in summary, they were the tax returns of President Trump for 6 years, including the tax returns of 8 affiliated businesses. It also included the audit notes and trails on those audits. What became clear is that almost all those audits that the IRS is doing is not yet complete. So any characterizations of the returns themselves, you have to acknowledge this is incomplete at this time. It does have the returns themselves, and what else? Reports. The IRS audit reports themselves. Majority report. Oh, excuse me. Yes, majority report, and then a sort of a rushed analysis by Joint Committee on Taxation, which had only about 11 days to look at this voluminous data on their impressions about the audit process. As you'd imagine, since this is only targeting one president and ignores and leaves out the presidential audits of 8 others, presidents who have been, we believe, or hope the IRS has audited correctly, and it was hard for them to draw conclusions. They had individuals, joint tax has some individual comments about each audit year about what the IRS should pursue, but contrary to claims, they did not criticize the audits.
Okay, so that's Kevin Brady, the Republican from Texas. He's one of the ranking members on House Ways and Means. We're going to step away.